Sounds good.
Record, and we're recording. All right. Hi, Jamie.
Hi, how are you?
So Jamie is a nutritional therapy practitioner.
Mhm.
Is that the right way to say it? An NTP?
Yes, yep.
Okay. And Jamie is a member at the gym, the gym that I do some coaching and classes and personal training at. And I wanted to get you on here, Jamie. You're actually the first woman that I've interviewed in a long time. And that's amazing, right? No. It's
Yay
just that
me.
over the past several months, I've really been focused on trying to talk to and engage men over 40. I'm 48 years old. I've really had a focus for that. But recently I've been looking at, you do all your social media metrics and you're looking at stuff. And I realized that I have like a 60% female following. So as much as I'm talking to guys and I'm really focusing there, I realize, you know what? In the end, I want to help people.
Mhm.
So I don't really care,
Yeah.
right? If I'm talking to just guys, let's have some women, because perspective and points of view is what matter, and
Mhm.
stories and sharing experiences, whether you're a guy or a girl. A guy can hear something from a girl and say, hey, you know what? That makes sense to me. And a girl can hear something from a guy and go, oh, I never thought about that. So it really doesn't matter. So
No,
whoever
okay.
hears this, we want to share stories, and that's kind of where my focus is. So let's
Cool.
share your story a little bit. So
Okay.
tell us a little bit about what an NTP is, what it is you do, and then we can get into like how you got started and all that.
Yeah. So nutritional therapy, it definitely lies more on the holistic side of
Mhm.
nutrition. It's looking at the whole body, how all of the systems work together in a functional way. And um, yeah, I mean, in terms of people like clients that I work with, a lot of them come in with digestive issues or, they're just not feeling, they're just like, I'm just feeling off. I don't have energy. I don't know what's going on. I'm
Mhm.
doing all the things. Um,
All the things, yeah.
yeah, exactly. I'm like, well, what are these things we're doing? Um, and then we really get into the good stuff. Uh, but yeah, I mean, it's real food focused, and I
Mhm.
love that about it. I love teaching others, how to nourish their bodies
Right.
with real nutrient dense foods, and how to also be able to cue into the messages that their bodies are sending them all the time. So
Right. Yeah, I like how you said nutrient density. That's one of my pillars. Pillars of nutrition is nutrient
yeah.
density. Um, okay, I'm going to ask you a loaded question.
Oh.
What is better, keto or paleo, or carnivore, or Whole30 or Mediterranean, or who knows what else is out there, vegan or vegetarian or pescatarian, or there's so many different things out there, right? How do you determine what is right for you? Because it's a question,
I have a magic answer.
right? It's a magic answer. It's a question I get all the time. And it's a conversation I have
Yep.
literally every single day, but everybody's different. And I'm like,
Mhm.
all right, so I want to see, what's your take on that whole discussion?
So I won't make it any easier, probably, but it depends. It depends. It does. There is not a one way of eating that's going to fit perfectly for everybody.
Mhm. Yeah.
At least that's what I found.
What are the things that affect that individuality?
Oh gosh, there's a number of things.
Yeah. And you're like the people that you've worked with and yourself, like what are some of the things you've seen that have changed? Because it
Mhm.
changes. And that's one of the biggest things I want people to understand is if you are progressing, there's an assumption at least in my point of view, there's an assumption that your things that are working for you now aren't always going to work for you. And there's something you need to
Yeah,
change road as you get better,
absolutely.
as you
Mhm.
heal theoretically. And the way I look at it is I feel like everyone is on the progression towards a like if everyone is eating optimally, everyone would be eating the same,
Mhm.
right? But we're all in different places in that spectrum and along the journey, right? It's a circle
Right.
as well as depth in that circle.
Yeah.
We're all over the place, right? There's a target and people are shooting all around it. So
Right.
what are some of the things in your experience that affect a person's, what works for a person at any given time?
So, well, I mean, we can talk about the basic or more obvious things, right? Like if you're um, male or female, how old are you?
Okay,
If you're,
those are two great ones. Those are two great ones. I
um,
love it. So
Yeah.
what's different in how a man or a woman should eat something? Like how they what that diet is. What are
Well,
some of the
I
differences?
mean, yeah, I mean, our needs are going to be different.
Mhm.
It's, in terms of macros sometimes, in terms of like balancing our hormones and how our hormones work.
We're on the same page.
Um,
That's what I'm thinking. Okay, good.
and, just, I don't know. I mean, I think, and this is kind of veering away from the male female thing, but like what your goals are, that
Sure.
matters as well. What you're coming in with in terms of, dysfunction, right? If we need to really dig deeper and figure out um, where to do some healing if necessary.
Yeah.
Digestion is huge. And I find that pretty much with every client that comes in, almost,
Yeah.
that's where we start
That
because, yeah, go
that
ahead. I'm
that
sorry.
is the digestion issue is the one thing that people discount the most,
Hmm.
and it's the one thing that affects the most people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Isn't that crazy? Like it's
Yeah.
literally, I don't know anybody that I've talked to that's had to change their nutrition habits for one reason or another that didn't have some kind of digestion. I
Hmm.
had it,
Yeah.
right? I had it. I know there's so many people that have it, but it's so common that people think it's normal. They don't even think about, you shouldn't be pooping 3 times a day. You shouldn't be spending 20 minutes on the pot when you do it every single
Or
time.
once a week.
Or the other way
Right.
around, right? Once a week.
Yeah.
For me and for most of the people I've dealt with, it's usually the multiple times a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've not dealt with people that are once a week. That's crazy.
Hmm.
Um, there's it's called being regular for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we could probably have a whole discussion just on poop,
I was going to say, I love talking
right?
about poop. I think I was made for this role actually because I just have
Because
poop
poop
humor
says
anyway.
so much about health.
It
The, the
does. It
the
does.
consistency, the timing, the amount,
Mhm.
the all kinds of things. Yeah, let's not. Okay.
And it's true, but it's it's a really important indicator, like you said. I mean, I ask people all the time, and in our initial consultation or in my program, it's like, do you look at your poop every time you go? And people
What?
laugh or whatever, or they're like, no, or they're like, yeah. And I'm like, you should be looking because it really does tell you a lot. The shape, if it's floating, like
Yeah.
the color, everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that can be we can have a poop discussion another
Yeah.
time.
All right, put that in the calendar. We're going to talk about
Yeah.
poop sometime. All right. So there's definitely things that are factors in people when you look at them.
Mhm.
I think definitely men and women have some different needs. Just if you look at, men, a healthy man in general has a higher lean mass percentage and a lower body fat mass percentage than a healthy woman. Will have a
Mhm.
lower lean mass and a higher body fat percentage. So that in and of itself tells you that there's some differences physiologically. Definitely age. What are some of the things in age you see? Because I'm almost 50, right? I got to worry about age. Ah. What are some things that when you have an older client that you talk about nutrition wise?
So I tend to work primarily with women. It's just
Mhm.
who
Apparently, so do
who
I.
come to me. Yeah. And the majority of them are either premenopausal or menopausal.
Mhm.
And so, we do focus a lot on, again, food first, but looking at hormones and balancing those hormones, and also, just deficiencies that
Yeah.
come along with aging and, making sure you have optimal levels. And, that is again a whole another discussion, probably, like what those windows look like, and in
Sure.
talking with your doctors and what's
Because
normal.
the RDAs are 100% on, right? Right. It's all about
Oh
the
yeah, totally.
believe the government when it tells you what you.
Right. They are most of the time pretty low. Well, in terms of like when you're looking at RDAs for minerals and vitamins and those kinds of things.
Right. Right.
Um, so yeah, I mean, um, I'm seeing a lot more autoimmune conditions with ladies and
Mhm.
men, but ladies
Mhm.
in that age group. Just lack of energy
Yeah.
and you
What
know,
what would be the number one advice you would give to somebody, let's say over 40, right? We're talking to the middle-aged and getting older. What would be the number one piece of nutritional advice you'd give somebody who's over 40?
gosh.
And would it be different than what you would give anybody? That's
Well,
kind of a
I
loaded
mean,
question.
I think where I start with anyone is, regardless of age,
Mhm.
first, is to eat primarily real food,
Okay.
right? So that's where you're going to get more nutritional bang in with
Yeah.
bucks,
Yeah.
eating real whole nutrient dense food, as I mentioned before. Um, and then we want to look at specific micro and macronutrients. So, we want to look at essential fatty acids, which is huge. Getting in those omega-3s. We, especially if someone's coming in from eating the standard American diet, super high in omega-6s, which is, it's an inflammatory,
Right.
so it's more inflammatory. So, your omega-3s are going to be anti-inflammatory. So we want to have a lot more of those. You're going to get mostly, or those from real foods, right? Like your fatty fish and,
Mhm.
some nuts and seeds and some other good quality fat sources. So avocados, they're a great fat
So
source.
here's a question. What do you think if you had to choose? This is kind of a trick question, and I'm just coming up with things on the fly
Mhm.
here. If you had to choose between telling a client that they need to prioritize fat versus protein, which would you lean to?
I'm always like, it depends. It depends. Um,
I have an answer, and I'll explain it.
yeah, I mean,
But
well, for sure, I feel like both are very important and they
yes,
both are necessary for optimal health, right?
yes, yes.
Um, I think so. Well, first of all, when I'm working with a client,
Mhm.
I there's a series of tools that I use, and one of them is a nutritional assessment questionnaire, which is an online
Yes,
questionnaire, and it
yes.
really is great at kind of basically it's over 300 questions, and it focuses on symptoms, and it is a cool tool in that it helps you to prioritize where you know
You need to focus.
your most the needs are, right?
Right, right.
So essential fatty, so say if somebody fills this out and it comes back and they're sharing all their symptoms, that would indicate that they're really deficient in essential fatty acids, but maybe their protein is okay. And again, this is also in addition to speaking with them and
Sure,
interviewing them, all this stuff
sure.
and background and history and stuff. Then I would probably again focus on digestion, but also getting in those EFAs. I mean, I don't know if I could just randomly pick one, not knowing anything about the person.
Right, right.
Um, because fat, and I know that I feel like a lot of people know less about the benefits of fat versus protein. I don't
Absolutely.
know if you find that as
Absolutely.
well.
Well, both actually. I mean,
Okay.
a lot of people don't understand how much the body uses fat, and they also don't understand how important protein is,
Right.
and the role that it plays. A lot of people, the biggest struggle I have is that people think protein is a fuel, and still trying to get them to understand that, the majority of calories that you get from protein don't count fuel, and
Hmm.
that's one of the reasons why calories in, calories out isn't a thing that
Right.
really matters.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
in general, there are pieces of the calories in, calories out model that do apply, but it's not the way that it's currently really understood.
Yeah.
Um, for
Um,
me, and I think this highlights a difference in the two areas that we work, right? So I work mostly in body composition, weight loss,
mhm.
and performance is the focus of where most of my stuff is. People that need to lose fat from a health perspective without having a specific, usually it's an insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes,
Mhm.
high blood pressure, an area. But because I'm not a nutritional therapy practitioner, I can't say, I'm not a dietitian or
Mhm.
licensed nutritionist
Yep.
either. I can't say I'm going to help you solve this problem. What I
Right.
do say is I can help you lose weight. I can help improve your body composition, which
Mhm.
should theoretically help that problem. And it does. Um, so for me, most of the people that I work with, I would say probably 100%, unless they've already worked with something similar to my programs in the past, almost 100% of them need to eat more protein.
For sure.
And
And to
that's,
answer the question earlier, I
yeah,
mean, with somebody older, that would for sure be a priority, because
right.
oftentimes, like you said, they're not eating enough. And I
They're not
find
eating
that
enough.
especially with women, they think they're eating too much, and it's oftentimes that they're not even eating enough food.
Absolutely.
you know,
Absolutely. You need to eat more. And
right,
that idea, because the society has drilled into our heads so much, right? Work more, eat less. That's
right,
how you get healthy. And it's like, no, that's how you starve yourself.
yeah,
That is
yeah,
literally what you're doing. The current mantra of nutrition is how you increase inflammation, decrease nutrient absorption, and create chronic health problems. That
right,
is why we have the problems that we have today, is because of eat more or work more, eat less. That's not how it's just not how it works.
yeah.
So tell us how you got into being a nutritional therapy practitioner. What is it about your life that said, hey, you know what? I want to do nutrition for people.
Yeah. So, as I mentioned before, prior to having kids, I have two children. They
Okay.
are 9 and 7. And prior to that, I was a full-time clinical social worker working in the schools with kids.
Hmm.
I loved it. It was definitely hard on many levels. Um, but once I had my daughter, we decided I was going to stay home, for a while, and, just be a mama. And, um, I think after having her is when I really just started paying more attention to what I was feeding her.
Mhm.
I started to wonder more about ingredients in food,
Yep.
and also the ingredients, that I was using on her skin, just things like that. So I started
Oh,
reading and
yeah, that's
took a few.
dangerous. Don't read.
Yeah, I know. And then you're like, what?
Did you
What
get
have I been
everything that
feeding her?
did you get everything that you read fact checked? That's all I want to know.
I know, right? No, this was the old days when censorship was not like crazy.
It's crazy. It's
That's
crazy.
another whole discussion.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So, I just started paying attention and reading more on what these ingredients were. And I actually somehow I connected with an NTP in the area. Um, and there was an advertisement for a grocery store tour. And so basically it's a class, you go, and she takes
Yep.
you around the store, right?
Yep.
So, when my daughter was little, I was thinking, oh, I'm pretty healthy. I'm buying organic cereal, and like, like everything was organic. It wasn't, I was thinking because it was organic, regardless of what it was, that it was healthy, right? I didn't know. I didn't really know a whole lot
Yeah.
about nutrition back then. So I went in there thinking, I think I'm doing pretty good, but I'll probably learn a few things. And I came out of there mind blown
Right.
with like 100 other questions, because she flip turned my whole idea of what healthy was
Right.
in my mind
Yep.
over on its head.
Yep. Yep.
And just she really focused on quality, right? So we went around to every section of the store. She talked about dairy and meats and fat, how important it was, the roles that it played in our body. And we went over ingredients. Like, that was the first time that I really paid attention to ingredients and learning what they were versus a nutritional box, a label,
Right.
right?
Right. Yep.
Growing up, you just look at like, how many carbs does it have? How many calories? And I never even paid attention to what it was that I was
Sure.
eating. Um, so yeah, that just like started this journey for me. I just wanted to learn all the things. And um, my husband and I, around the same time, decided that we were going to go 30 days. And back then, I don't like using the term clean eating really anymore, right? There's
Mhm.
just, I don't know. But back then, this was like 8 years ago, there was this girl that I came across online, and she was a blogger, and it was called 100 Days of Real Food.
Okay.
And she and her family, two kids and her husband, went 100 days without eating anything processed at
Gotcha.
all.
Okay.
And she shifted from eating anything low fat to full fat, right? So if you're talking dairy, no more skim milk, go to the whole
Yeah. Get
milk,
it. Get
right?
it. Yeah. Right.
The meats from conventional to grass-fed beef. So basically upgrading and
Everything.
cutting
Yeah.
out all the sugar, right? No sugar.
Yep.
So I was like, I like a good challenge. Yeah. Like I had no intentions of going past 30 days. I
Hmm.
was just like, let's try to do this. Let's do it for 30 days. We don't have to do 100.
Yeah.
And we did. And let me tell you, we just experienced so many positive health outcomes from that 30 days. My husband had debilitating migraines, like at least once a week for years, to where he'd
Yeah.
have to come home from work. Sleep was the only thing that helped sometimes. And within less than 2 weeks, gone. Like he'd never had another one.
That's
And
awesome.
so that was like a wake up call for him for sure.
Yeah.
My
Absolutely.
skin, nails, hair improved. We lost a little weight, even though that wasn't our intention, but it just happened. Um, Energy levels were like through the roof. My cravings were gone. You know,
Mhm.
you have those cravings in between meals, the afternoon dips. And so there was no going back after that. I
Right.
was like,
That's
okay,
yeah.
there's something to this. There's
And
something to food, right?
there's a lot to food, and
Right.
it's the same story I hear over and over again. It's what happened with me. It's what happened with
Mhm.
people that I work with. Uh, you try it and you're like, holy crap. For me, it was the 21-day sugar detox. I went
Yes.
21
Mhm.
days with no alcohol. So I was already pretty low processed, low sugar, things
Yeah.
like that. But for me, I did 21 days no alcohol as part of that. And I lost 10 pounds of body, 10 pounds of fat.
Mhm.
10
Yeah.
pounds. I maintained my lean mass. I lost completely nothing but fat, just stopping drinking alcohol for 3 weeks. And it was the same thing. Like your grocery store tour, this is what that was for me. It was just like,
Yeah.
whoa, what the heck just happened? What's going on here? And it kind of made me get into the whole thing. Um, I like what you were saying about how the way you guys did it. So, I'm I follow more whole food, animal based way of eating where
Mhm.
I don't really eat veggies. I almost never eat veggies. I actually accidentally ate some veggies today. I got an
Accidentally.
omelet. I went to a restaurant and got an omelet, a cheese omelet, and they made the wrong omelet and they put onions and peppers in it. And I was so upset. No, I mean,
Oh
I ate like
no.
half of it, and I was like, "Wait, something is not right with this. So this is not, this is not what I wanted." But I ate it. I didn't want to be that guy.
Yeah,
Since I
yeah.
was already past the halfway mark, it's like
Right.
if it's past halfway, I'm not going to
Yeah.
send it back.
Just take it down.
Um, but yeah, so but it doesn't have to necessarily be, people harp on me. I get people that say, you need to stop telling people they don't need carbs. I'm not going to do that, number one, because you don't need
Mhm.
carbs. But I never told anybody not to eat carbs.
Mhm.
There's a thing my focus, that I say is if it's working for you, then keep doing it. If it's not
Right.
if it's not hurting you, if it's not harming you, if it's not setting you back, then there's
Right.
no need not to do it. If it's something that you like, I got clients that, I just can't give up my Brussels sprouts. Oh, then eat
Mhm.
your Brussels sprouts, have a
Right.
blast. Right?
Yeah.
Just understand what they could be doing. And if something negative happens, then you can evaluate and make a change.
Mhm.
And for you guys, you were able to see a lot of good benefits just from the processed food. And that's the thing that I want people to take away from your story. Just making a processed food change can
Yeah.
completely drastically improve your life.
Absolutely.
Don't ever
Yeah.
buy anything in a box again. If it has an ingredient label, you don't need to eat it.
Yeah. I mean,
You know,
yeah, it's really, it's true. I mean, and we have evolved in our way of eating even since then. I mean, that
Mhm.
was, 7 years ago. And just as we're learning, I've tried different things and
Yeah,
I noticed that I feel better without certain things. And so I've adapted and but
right.
but you're right. I mean, just that. And that was, I mean, we were still, gosh, I was even still eating like wheat bread. I was just
Mhm.
going to the bakery now,
Right.
buying the ones that were baked that day with 5 ingredients or less, like the way
Yep.
that our great grandparents used to make it.
Did you ever
Um,
do Ezekiel bread?
yeah, yeah, yep,
Yeah.
we
Okay.
did, we did.
Yeah.
So
All
yeah,
those
and
raw seeds.
yep, the sprouted grains. So yeah, it was just life changing. And then after that, I was like, okay. Oh, the other thing was that at the same time that I was, experiencing all of these cool things and learning new things, I started a Facebook group because I just wanted an outlet to help and teach other people as I was learning. So that was about 4 years ago, and it's still going strong. And
Nice.
like,
What's the group?
it's Real Food, Nutrition, and Optimal Wellness with Jaime
Oh,
Brooke.
okay.
Sorry, yeah, it's kind of long.
I'm gonna pull that up right as we're doing. Hold on. Keep going. Keep talking.
And so it was fun, and it still is fun, just sharing my meals and articles, and then having
Right.
other people who were also starting their journeys and learning new things, sharing and supporting one another. So eventually, a couple of years ago, I decided, I want to actually get certified, and maybe even, start my own little biz. And so I did. I went through the Nutritional Therapy Association, the Nutritional Therapy Practitioner Program, and I loved it, and I learned so much.
Mhm.
And so now I am seeing clients, and I teach a 5-week program that's similar to the 21-day sugar detox,
Okay.
actually.
Okay.
Um, and I love it. And it's I just love helping people, like, just advocate for themselves, and teaching them how to read ingredients, and kind of steer away from, I feel like there's a time and place for calorie counting for some people. Like, I'm
Mhm.
I'm not trying to poo poo it at all, but I do feel like there are people that are only counting calories or macros, and they're not paying attention to what they're actually eating, right? So they have a window. Oh, I this is my 1800 calorie window,
Correct.
but
Correct.
are you getting your nutritional needs met?
Correct.
Are you eating a lot of processed foods? I don't know. So I think with people that actually start making these changes, like you were saying, like we were talking about, and they start to really just feel better. And whether it's having achy joints and now you feel better. I have a participant that just finished my program the other day, and she's like, my inflammation is gone. And I'm like, wow, well, how can you tell? And
Yeah.
and just as I just wanted her to share with the group.
Yeah.
And she's like, I can get out of bed now in the morning without being in pain.
Yep.
That's huge,
And
right?
that's huge. That's amazing because she probably never knew that was possible.
No, yeah,
People don't realize that the things that they're putting into their mouths, and we haven't even talked about environment and the way that there's a whole bunch of other stuff that goes
I know.
into that, but just the impact of what you change of what goes in your mouth can affect so many different pieces.
Yeah, even mood, like mental health, mood, and
Absolutely.
just I mean, gosh, everything's
Yeah,
connected.
I know many people who have battled anxiety, bipolar,
Mhm.
depression, um, suicide, all types of things that they've had to work through mentally, who changed their nutrition. And
Yeah.
within some of them within months, some of them it's taken a little bit longer, but within a relatively short amount of time, it's like they're no longer on meds, they no longer have problems, they're no longer symptomatic, and they
Mhm.
can live their lives without that umbrella or without that cloud over their head all the time,
Yeah.
just by their food. It's crazy.
Yep.
What are some of the, like, how would you, I'm trying to think how to word this question. You went on, so for me, I did the 21-day sugar detox and it made me kind of go boom. For
Mhm.
you, I'm going to make an assumption here and say that you were probably ready to have that epiphany, do it during your grocery store tour, being a recent mom, being a new mom, and you
Mhm.
were in a different mindset. Would that same thing have happened before you were pregnant? Go a year earlier. Would you have been ready to hear that message?
I don't know. Maybe not. I mean, I think I wasn't really focused on health.
Yeah.
Um, I was just working and, doing the
You probably
day-to-day
wouldn't have
thing.
even have
And
been gone on the tour in the first place, right? Like it never
yeah,
would have,
maybe not. It's funny how things happen. And
right?
I mean, you know, initially it was once I had my daughter, obviously it's not about you anymore, right? I mean, I just became the sole person that was responsible for her health, and, you know, providing her with food that was, and, that I wanted her to be healthy, and I wanted her to
Right.
have her nutritional needs met. And, my idea of what that meant was completely different. And so this is where when clients come in, or even just in talking with people, you know, when they're like, well, I just want to be healthy, or I want to eat healthy food. And it's like, well, what does that mean to you? Like,
Mhm.
what does that look like?
Right.
What are you currently eating? Because I don't know. I mean, I thought that I was eating healthy, right? I mean, you
Right.
all these healthy heart grains
Oh
and like,
gosh.
you know,
It says healthy on the label.
right. You know, it says on there that it's gonna, you know, I don't know. Yeah, there's just so many, that's a whole nother discussion too, is like
Right,
all
right.
the labels
The
and the loosely regulated, you know, labels with the food
unregulated.
industry and stuff.
How do
Yeah,
you
yeah.
break to somebody? How do you break to somebody that what they think is healthy isn't?
Well, I mean, it's, if we're talking about, you know, the food industry and labels and things, I mean, it's pretty eye-opening, you know.
Mhm.
I just educate them on that,
Yeah.
and I show them, and actually, I mean, I've had do my own grocery store tours. I mean, now with COVID, it's tricky and I can't do
Sure.
it. But
Sure.
prior to COVID, I would teach these classes,
Mhm.
you know, myself,
Go ahead.
and it's pretty. A lot of them would, a lot of people that have gone through, you know, they're just really overwhelmed because it's overwhelming, right? When you first start to actually learn about what all of these ingredients are.
Right.
Um, I think the sugar is a big eye opener for
Yeah.
people when
All the
they,
names for sugar.
yeah, there's over 70 names for
Crazy. Oh,
sugar,
it's
and
up
it's
to 70
growing.
now. The last I knew it was like 56 or something
Oh
like that.
yeah,
So there's
yeah,
more now.
and you know,
Jeez.
and the food industry is so savvy, and they try to be 3 steps ahead with,
Right.
they follow trends, and they know, you know, we're becoming more aware. People are starting to read labels, and they don't want to buy things with sugar. And if there's a term like high fructose corn syrup, or a term that in the media, you know, starts to go catch wind, and people are like, oh, that's not good for you, then people start to look to, you know, look for that, and they avoid
Yeah.
it. So then the food industry just changes the name, right?
Right.
Oh, well,
Same
take
stuff,
off
just
the high
change the name.
fructose and leave it as corn sugar,
Right.
or, you know, I mean,
Right.
there's so many examples of that. And so no wonder, I mean, people just get so overwhelmed, and um, that's where I find people become the most frustrated, is like when they're in the early stages of learning about all of this, right?
Right.
There's just a lot of
It's hard.
emotions that come with it
It's hard.
too, because, you know, I mean, even like as a parent, you feel guilty. You're like, well, how come I didn't know this? What have I been feeding my kids?
Mhm.
Or just angry at the industry for
Yeah.
a lot of the misleading, um, you know, like
All
claims
of
and
this misleading
labels
stuff. I
and
mean, you're literally it's hard sometimes because you're trying to convince someone, in some cases convince, in other cases educate. It's a combination of kind of both, because even though they're hearing and seeing the information in black and white right in front of them, there's that cognitive wall that they've
right.
been told the sky is blue for so long, and you're telling them that it's really green, and it's like, no, it doesn't make sense, I just can't comprehend this.
Yeah,
So there's that visceral fight and defense against some of that
for sure.
change, because it basically it means that everything they've done in their life is wrong, and they need to change everything about themselves.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing for people to go. So
Yeah.
focusing on, let's just start a little thing at a time, and let
Right.
yourself work into it.
Well, yeah, and I also think that's the difference between people coming to you that are ready to learn and ready to, you know,
Yeah.
make some changes, versus just being out somewhere and talking about it, and people are like,
Right. Just
you know,
talk to random people like, hey, I don't know you, but did you know that what you're eating right now? Yeah.
right? No, no, no. And there's just such a fine line between, you know, sounding.
How hard is it? So here's a question. How hard is it for you when you see things happening that you really shouldn't be sticking your nose into, and you're like, just, ah,
Yeah, that's
right?
exactly how I feel inside. I'm like,
Right? Like that is such a bad idea. It's
you
hard for me
know,
sometimes, but
it is, no, it's totally hard. But I've gotten a lot better at it. I picked my battles way more wisely now.
mhm,
And I learned the hard way, I think. I feel like early on, and maybe this is just a natural thing that we all kind of go through. You learn something new, or you experience something awesome or life-changing, and you just want to
Yeah.
share it, right? You want to help other people, especially those that are close to you and your family or whatever, that have maybe health issues, and you want to share information that's going to help them, right?
Right.
But you find out really very quickly that not everybody, like you said, is open
Yeah.
to making any changes, or even to the information, because a lot of the information, and that we have learned and that we practice and have practiced with our clients that have had great results from, are contradictory to what medical mainstream
Yeah.
teaches, or what doctors are telling their patients or
That's a
documenting.
nice way of
So
putting it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's tricky.
It
So
is tricky.
I wait now. If it's, family or people that know me, they know, right? They know what I do. They know I'm
Mhm.
passionate about it. And I'm like, they know I'm here if
Mhm.
they have questions. And they've
Yeah.
reached out. I mean, the same people that, when I wasn't so selective in in like picking my battles in the beginning, when I just wanted to share,
Right.
that thought I was crazy back then, are now calling and asking questions. And
Yeah.
like, so I feel like you can still plant seeds, and you can still teach through modeling.
Mhm.
People are watching, and
Yeah.
when people are ready to learn and to make changes, it's when they're ready, if they're
Right.
ready,
And that's the
right?
thing. It takes patience, particularly and especially when it comes to family people that are close to you. You can't push it. You have to just do your thing, do what works for you. They're watching, they see, they're in your life.
Yeah.
Don't bombard that. It's the same with CrossFit. People join a CrossFit gym and they're like, I
Yeah.
do CrossFit,
Right,
and
exactly.
it's all over the place. They're like, nobody wants to hear that. I'm
Right.
sorry, but if you're just starting in a CrossFit gym, nobody wants to hear that.
Yeah.
Now, the gym wants you to keep doing that, and we want you to keep doing that because it brings
Mhm.
potentially it spreads word about the gym. But if you're really trying to help people, you have to just do your thing and let them watch, and then they'll
Right.
figure out when they want to start on their own.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about, well, I got two more things that I want to kind of pull in. One is, let's talk about your personal development as you went through all of these changes.
Mhm.
What was one of maybe the biggest struggle that you had to deal with in your own changing of habits, lifestyle, doing what was one of the biggest things you had to deal with?
Honestly, in the beginning, and I hear this a lot from, you know, clients and people that I'm working with too, is socially, it's hard, right? Especially if you're, let's say you're used to going out drinking with your friends every weekend,
Mhm.
or you're, or as a mom, you go on play dates all the time, and you're starting to make these changes. You often get a lot of flack from
Yeah,
people, or
yeah,
and I don't think that maybe maybe sometimes it's mean spirited, but I feel like, but I think that in most cases, people, um, it comes down to insecurities, and or people just, they don't know, they don't understand. And sometimes I think people take it personally, like if you're making changes and you're doing different things, they kind of internalize that as, well, does this mean that I'm doing something wrong? Is this person judging me? When it's not.
you're
You know,
you're kind of a reflection of, in a lot of ways, there's that struggle that they have of they probably are truly happy for you as a
mhm,
person making a change, but you're also reflecting back to them what they're not doing.
right.
And that's hard for people to see, that mirror image of like, I should be doing that, I could do that, but instead I'm going to pull back and create an excuse for why not, and then that makes me upset because I know better, and it's
Mhm.
just that circular loop of,
Yeah.
so it can
And
come
and
out.
and I hear it a lot from women, especially if, they're they're the ones that are doing the shopping, right? They're the ones that are planning the meals in their homes, and it's
Mhm.
hard when their partners aren't on board, or even going to family events, with in-laws or extended family, and maybe, I don't know, they're having a pizza party, or they're eating some things that they're just trying to not eat so much anymore, or maybe
Right.
they're on a protocol where they're like, I'm not eating gluten right now, or I'm cutting out dairy, or whatever it is. And they just have a hard time because they feel that, their in-laws or family members are giving them a hard time because they're coming in and like, well, what's wrong with the food that I'm serving? Or what's wrong with like, that's just crazy. Why are you not, eating whatever?
It's different. It's different. It
So
must
it's hard, and so people they're always like, well, how do you navigate that? Or how do you go out? Or how do you, like,
How did you handle that? How do you handle that? Is that something that you, how do you handle
yeah. So, at first it was a little hard.
that?
And I think and to be honest, it was so long ago. I don't know initially how I handled it. I think I avoided sometimes just situations where I knew it was going to be an issue. We didn't really go out to eat as much, right? And we didn't go, we would go to social events, but I would often bring something or, I don't know. I mean, I think over time, what happened was that family, they just started to become more supportive and they just accepted that we, are choosing to eat differently
This is how it
and we're
was.
focused on our health and it's not just a diet, right?
Right.
And I think that's tough too, is that there's diet mentality, right? And then there's the lifestyle. This is how I want to lead. I want to continue to nourish my body. I want it to be
Right.
sustainable. And I want to live like this.
Yeah.
And it's hard kind of shifting that mindset or, even with clients. I mean, it's hard for them even, and they acknowledge it's hard for me to get out of that mindset.
Yeah. You got to make the decision. This is what I'm doing regardless. I'm looking out for me, and it doesn't matter if anyone understands or not. This is for
Right.
me,
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you do for your clients and just for yourself? Like, what is your kind of philosophies around fitness? How does fitness fit into your protocol of working with clients, but also in your own life?
So for me, I love CrossFit. And I think you shared this as well. I was not athletic at all growing up. It wasn't until I was like maybe 38, 39 that I became more interested in fitness. I think I had different spouts in my life where I would join a gym for like, the new year, right? January.
Right, yeah.
And then I'd go for a month or two and then I'd just quit. But it was always, again, more for like weight loss, or like I never thought of it as I just want to be strong or I just want to be able to move and be around in 20 years,
Talk about that. Why do you say strong? What is this thing about women and being strong?
So I think for me, I'll just talk about CrossFit because that's really what I'm into now. My older sister, who is 55, she was into CrossFit before me. And for a couple of years, she was like, you got to try it. You got to try it. And I just was always intimidated by it. I was like, I could never imagine throwing up a barbell or climbing a rope or anything. Like, I was just like, I could never do that, And there was a Groupon, and I was like, you know what do I have to lose? I'm going to get this Groupon and check it out. Had a friend that went to top tier, and I went in and I just loved it. And I know, it was like within a few sessions, I felt like I was going to die. Like the first time I was like, what in the world? But I kept going and it just got easier, right? Easier in terms of being able to like, not feel like you're going to die.
Right.
And then the coaches were awesome. And whenever I like would doubt myself, like I couldn't lift this weight or I could never do whatever it was. And then I learned it and then I did it. And then it was like, whoa. And so it was just really empowering, right? And nothing that I'd ever experienced before. Being able to climb a rope. Like,
yeah,
when I finally climbed that rope, it was like I was almost going to cry. Like I could not believe it. I was like, I was 40 years old and I'm climbing a rope,
Yeah.
So just, I don't know. It was just, for me, it's like, believing that you can do something,
And then doing it.
and doing it. And I don't know, I feel like growing up, I just never really stuck with things. I never, I don't know, I just didn't have that drive when I was
Mhm,
younger.
mhm.
I wasn't really into sports. I don't know. I'm sure I was good at things, but I never really,
Yeah.
was like a member of a team or had that experience. And with CrossFit, you can just feel, like you're getting stronger because
Yeah.
you're able to do more things. And so, yeah, I mean, I just love it. And I love the community too. I
Mhm.
love people. It's a whole different vibe, I feel like, than a conventional gym. I've
Yeah,
been a member of
absolutely.
other conventional gyms in the area where it was mostly about aesthetics, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but it wasn't about being strong. It wasn't about you know, like improving your health, really, right? It was
Yeah,
more about
absolutely. Yeah.
what you look like. And
The
as a
philosophy,
female,
the philosophy, yeah,
go
sorry.
ahead.
The philosophy is different, right? You can improve some health factors by focusing on making yourself look better, but you can improve a lot of health factors by trying to fix your health. And then,
Right.
oh, by the way, you're also going to look better.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I look
Yeah.
at it.
Yeah.
Let's get you
Yeah.
fit and healthy, and that's going to make you look better by default.
Yeah.
Don't
And I feel
focus
like
on
just
that.
mental health, I don't know. I mean, just going in and, being able to accomplish things that you never thought that you'd be able to accomplish.
Mhm,
And it's a great stress reducer,
mhm.
right? And just being around positive people, the energy is just so positive. And I love that too.
All right. So you would highly recommend to all your clients that they join a CrossFit gym? Everybody watching this video,
Go CrossFit.
go join a CrossFit gym.
No, I mean, I feel like
CrossFit is
people
not
need,
paying
yeah,
me to say that. And just
no, I know. Um, I was just asked this question. A client that I have who just finished my restart program was like, I want to do more fitness wise. And he's an older guy, and he's just like, I don't really have weights. What do you suggest? What can I do at home? Or
yeah, yeah,
and the first thing I said was, well, I think it's important to find something that you like, right?
yeah,
Something that you enjoy,
yep.
because you know, and same thing with nutrition, right? We get on these kicks where we do things that we're told or we think that we should do, but then we end up hating it or not, feeling good about it, not sticking with it, and then we just quit. And that's what he was sharing. He's like, I just can't stick with anything.
Mhm.
And so, I was just giving him some ideas and where to start. But strength training, it's like, if you can, even if you don't have weights, just picking up weird objects in your house
Sure.
that have a little weight to them, or, obviously like squatting and doing things that,
Mhm,
you know,
mhm.
like body weight things.
Right.
But I feel like enjoying it is important too.
Yeah, it's a
I don't
huge,
know.
and that goes for nutrition as well. If you don't
Yeah.
enjoy the food, and it's with nutrition, I hesitate to say enjoy, because there's in some ways I don't want people to get enjoyment from their food because that starts connecting other things, um,
Mhm.
that can lead down a path of we don't want to go down. Um, but the food serves a tool, exercise serves a tool. There should be some uh, sense of accomplishment. There should be some sense of enjoyment of this isn't something that is bland and dreary and boring and
Right.
gives you a negative feeling about doing it.
Hmm.
Right? You want to look forward to something positive that's going to come from this action and this activity,
Right.
um, because
But
that's what keeps you doing it. So
yeah, I will say though, I think a lot of people come in and when they want to make changes and eat more health promoting foods, they do have this idea of like, is it going to taste good or is it going to be boring? And I love food. My food is delicious. And, there are ways to eat. I mean, well, for sure, you can eat and prepare real whole nutrient dense foods that taste fantastic,
right.
right? I mean,
Absolutely, I do it every time I make a
like,
steak.
exactly. Steak, I mean, fat. I'm like, fat tastes good.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, there's just, and I do, to what you were saying about being hesitant, right? Like saying, about enjoying foods. And I just
Mhm.
thought of like sugar and probably the higher palatable foods. And I'm sure that's what you're
Right.
alluding to.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know, I have found with clients and in myself that the more nutrient dense foods, nutritious foods that you're eating,
Mhm.
and if you're getting in the protein and you're getting in the fats and you're like eating a well balanced meal that works for you consistently, then those cravings are going to decrease, those sugar cravings, right? And your palate changes. And I'm sure you experienced that
Oh,
with your
absolutely.
21-day detox. Like,
Yep.
I always have my my participants before the program, like, eat a green apple before the program,
Yep.
right? It's really tart. After 3 weeks, I want you to eat another green apple, and that apple is going to be like the sweetest thing ever, right? You've probably experienced it as well with like meat. I mean, I can taste the sweetness in meat and in things that you never would have thought of as being
Sweet.
sweet,
Right.
right? But the highly processed foods that are loaded with sugar, they are literally designed to hijack your taste buds.
Right.
And you know
More.
yeah, I want you to eat. They're designed to have you craving more. So um I feel like if your foundations are met nutritionally, then once in a while, if you have that cookie or whatever, your body's going to be better able to handle it. And it's just not going to be, you're not going to want to eat 10 more. You're going to be satisfied. At least that's been my experience.
Yeah.
Versus eating a whole sleeve of Oreos or
Or
something.
whatever. Awesome. Well, thank you very much for your time, Jamie. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
I
no
will get
problem.
this up. And where can people find you online?
So I'm probably Facebook. I'm more active in my group, and that was the group. You can find it in a search, or just reach out to me on Facebook, and I can send you a link. It's Real Food Nutrition and Optimal Wellness with Jaime Brooke. I'm
Okay.
also on Instagram at Jaime Brooke Wellness,
Okay.
and yeah, that's
Cool.
that's where I am. So
Awesome. Take it easy. Thank you very much. I will see you at the gym.
yes, I look forward to having more conversations about all of the things.
All of the things. Cool. Thank you much. Take it easy.
Yeah, you too.